if I were to like reach out to your boss about your performance this summer, like what are some good things that they would tell me, and then what are some of the bad things that they would tell me?
Yeah, that's so I think that the main things that he will tell you that are good about myself is that I always showed a positive attitude at work. They could tell that I had a great time working there, learning. I was truly passionate about the sector. So they would definitely say that my attitude was uh, made a good experience for not only me, but also for them to work with. And then they also say that I show a lot of curiosity. I would always ask good questions. I not like ask questions like every time. I would just write them down, discuss them, and also be able to like book a time with them and just talk with them about them. And finally, they will also say that I'm a hard worker. There were many times I had to stay until very late at night, but no, I was not required. Before leaving work, I also always asked them if they need any help from me, no matter how late it was or how much I've already done. So they also like the fact that I was always willing to ask for tasks, ask for to help anyone, and show that I really wanted to keep learning by asking for more work, essentially. And the bad things that he will say is that one of my weakest points at first of the internship was that I didn't have that much of attention to detail. I made a couple of mistakes that could have been easily avoided if I rechecked my work. But then at the end, in my last performance reviews, my MD said how much I have improved. So at least, even though I wasn't the best attention to detail, it sort of improved throughout the internship. And also something that maybe last thing that he would say that I was maybe not the best at first was about how technical I was about oil and gas. He knows that I didn't come from an engineering or oil and gas background as some of my peers did. So what he did was he gave me a lot of primers, a lot of presentations and articles for me to read. And progressively throughout the internship, he also booked times with me to discuss about the technical concepts, and he could also see how interested I am about it. So yeah, I would say that the strengths were my positive attitude, my good work ethic, and the fact that I was curious and asked good questions. And the things that I was lacking at was attention to detail, and that I was not fully knowledgeable about technical concepts of the oil and gas industry.
Okay. Okay. I think all the examples that you chose for your strengths and your weaknesses were fine.
Okay.
Were those the actual feedback from your performance review?
Yes, completely true. Yeah.
I think just when you're talking about the two weaknesses or whatever, I phrased it as like, what were some good things they would say about you, and what were some bad things they would say about you? When you're talking about it yourself, I think you should like soften the language a little bit instead of saying like, the bad things about me are, or like I would say like,
okay.
In terms of like the constructive feedback that I got.
Oh, I see. I see.
The areas of improvement were,
Mm-hmm.
A and B, right? And then I think, yeah, like make sure for each of the weaknesses, and I think you did do this, talk about like what was the weakness initially, and then like most importantly, like what did you do to get better at it and focus on it?
Mm-hmm.
And then like what was the result? And usually the result is just that by the end, when you got the performance review in the end, they said that you had improved a lot or whatever, right? Where you gotten a lot better at technicals. I think that middle part though, like, so then what did you actually do to get better at it? I guess for the technical stuff, you talked about like reading primers and this and that, but
yes.
for the attention and detail stuff, I don't think you really talked about what you did to get better.
You're right. I didn't.
You just went straight to
I got better.
I got better.
Yeah.
So I would probably add like 1 or 2 sentences on like, ever since I got that feedback, I went back and made sure to always do X, Y, and Z, right?
Yeah.
And then like this was the result of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. You're right.
Okay.
I mean, the thing is that attention to detail for me was sort of like, for example, at first I was given this to make this working paper, okay? So, and I had to then put it in a document. but I wasn't, even though I was doing the tables and stuff, I wasn't putting that much effort into formatting. So like some numbers would have like extra decimals, some, it's like those type of things that I didn't know that were that important until they pointed them out to me. So I think that's why it's tough to say how, like, I don't have like any method that I did to improve that. I just start learning of what my MD wanted, sort of like as he was like giving me feedback. I was, okay, so he likes this to be like this, or he likes this to be perfectly, the formatting to be nice, or this to be like this color, or this like this logos to be like this place. So like that's when I realized, okay, like, so that, like, I don't know how to explain that, to see like that it was not as natural as it was, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah, I
think,
put some effort into it.
yeah,
Just learned.
I think, I mean, you can come up with some things, right? Like, for example, making sure you always,
Right, read
uh,
the feedback, maybe.
well, like making sure, like every time I got the initial instructions from the MD, always ask any clarifying questions that I had up
Okay.
front to make sure that I
Okay.
100% understood exactly what he wanted, right?
That's, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Second thing I did is, after finishing my work, always make sure that
Recheck.
always make sure that I check my work, and not only just check my work, but I would print out a draft of my presentation and
That's
tick
good.
tick and tie every single number across all the different slides, because a lot of times the mistakes in banking is like you show EBITDA as X on slide one, and then on like the next page the EBITDA is like a different number when it should match, right? Like,
Yes, that happened to me too. Yeah.
yeah, that's a common mistake. So like, how do you fix
Yeah.
that? You need to like print it out and actually like flip through the pages with pen and paper, as opposed to just like checking your work on screen, right?
Yeah, that's good.
And then the third thing that I started doing was, I don't know, think of something like, think back to like, things like I just got better at it. Like, no, you didn't just get better at it. There were things that you did by the end of the internship that you were not doing at the beginning of the internship, right? Um, and if you can't think of anything and you want the third reason to just be like, I just started to like, as I got ramped up, I started to develop a better understanding of,
Yeah.
what my MD's expectations were and what he liked and what
Yes,
he didn't like.
that's true.
And so that helped a lot. Like, fine, if you want to use that as one of the reasons, but then like that just can't be your only reason, because
Yeah,
that's,
you're right. You're right.
so then like maybe that combined with the other two that I just gave you, and those are the three things that you did that helped you get better at this, right? Something like that.
Okay. I see. Yeah, I'll think of another reason. I also don't like the last one because, yeah, it shows that I didn't put any active work in improving. Okay. That's good. Thanks.
Okay. Hey there, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're looking for more customized advice that's tailored for your specific situation, then I invite you to book a free strategy session with our team at the link below. We'll talk to you soon.